Okay, hello everybody, and welcome back to Fearless Fridays. Now, today I'm here with Melissa DeSantis, so I'm really excited to hear your story. So, Melissa, why don't you start by telling us who you are and what your career transition has looked like?
Sure. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Anna. My name is Melissa DeSantis, and I transitioned, it's about 14 years now, from medical sales into real estate and became a full-time realtor.
Amazing, very succinct. And I love that it's 14 years ago because, when I started doing these interviews, I was talking to people who were sort of mid transition still and not sure if it's working out and maybe right at the beginning. And I love these stories with people like you who've made it work over the longer term because that's, the next stage once we've escaped by
Yes.
quitting our job once. That's almost the harder part, isn't it, to keep it going. So amazing, congratulations, and looking forward to digging deeper to hear how you've done it. So I guess going back 14 years then, what was the decision? What made you think that actually I don't want to be doing this in this way the rest of my life?
Well, I was in medical sales. I loved the sales aspect. I loved meeting new people and, every day was, not in an office. I'm not an office type person where I like to just sit at a desk. So I enjoyed that aspect. However, I was not passionate about medical sales. And I was selling a townhome and buying my new home. And my realtor at the time was, I guess I'll say, less than impressive. And I said, "Oh, if she can do this, I can definitely do this and do it much better." And I didn't have that personal connection with her where I felt like she had my best interest at heart. It was more of just she wanted to make the sales and move on to the next person. And when you're buying or selling a home, it's likely a person's biggest asset or financial investment. And I feel, it needs to be treated that way. And you need that personal connection. You need to feel that you can trust the person that you're working with and that they do have your best interest at heart. So I loved the aspect of real estate and everything about it. So it was at that time I said, if I'm going to be working the next 50 years or so, I want to do something that I love doing. And went to real estate school, got my license, and never looked back. So,
Amazing. Well, I
yeah,
love that story because that's such a great way to come up with sort of a business idea. It's not like, you're creating something that's never existed before, but you're seeing something, you're experiencing something that isn't particularly good, and you think, hang on, I can actually do this better, first of all. And secondly, as you said, this personal, emotional relationship. I guess sometimes when you come from outside an industry, you can really bring something new in terms of understanding what's important and almost a fresh pair of eyes compared to someone who's maybe jadedly going through and just sort of plodding along in their career. Maybe that person needed to change to another career as well. So that's
yes,
great that you're able to come up with that. Just to ask, how did you end up, I guess, in medical sales to begin with? What was that something, you said you weren't passionate about it. Were you passionate when you first started, or was it something that you never really felt that you were a
I
good fit for?
I kind of just fell into it. I went to school, I graduated in communications, and then, as many of us, once you graduate, it's kind of like, well, what do I do now? And I was working in New York City, actually for the National Football League, doing internet, and but I was more of an admin person in an office, and so like I said prior, I just was not an office type person. I like to be on the road and doing different things. So just started applying. And I feel I was very lucky that I did land a medical sales position because it gave me a lot of the skills that I needed to move and take forward into real estate. So it kind of just fell into it somehow.
I think a lot of us do, don't we? Unless you're super clear when you're younger, this is exactly what I want to do. And communications is quite sort of a broad degree that you can do a lot of things with, isn't it? So, you do end up accidentally with something. Um, and I wanted to ask you something. Sorry, what did you just say? I just wanted to pick up on something that you said. Um, Oh, I lost it. Oh, I'll have to go back and ask you later. Anyone not watching who wants to comment and ask the question would be great. Okay, so what was the challenge? So it sounds very simple in terms of, oh, yes, I saw this opportunity and I got qualified and 14 years later to start. But I imagine it wasn't quite as easy going through that process. So what were some of the obstacles you came across, either sort of mindset or money or anything at all?
Right. Oh, so many, I feel. In the beginning, it was, I had a stable career job in medical sales with a six-figure salary. And I mean, basically everything was covered. They gave me a company car, an expense account, a computer. And so transitioning from that into real estate where, you pay for even everything yourself, a piece of paper, everything. It was just like night and day. So, and I was lucky in the sense that I got my real estate license and I did do it part time in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And, that would be something that if someone's looking for a transition career change, I would highly give them that advice if that's possible, because it does allow you to just take baby steps to make sure this is
All
exactly
about
what
the baby steps. Mm-hmm.
yes. And so I did it for a few months part time just because it was such a big change for me, especially financially. Like I said, going from having all that security to, having to invest a lot of money in order to get the business that I needed to get. So, but I quickly learned once I started part time that if I was going to be successful, real estate was not a part-time job. It's more than a full-time job. So that was definitely a struggle. And the mindset, and believing that I could do it, because real estate, at least in our area, is very competitive. And you're going up against a lot of realtors who have been in the business or were when I started, who had a lot of experience. So just that mindset and believing in yourself, and, acquiring the skills and confidence to be able to do it. That was a challenge, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's always the case when we're changing to something, albeit, you think, hang on, I can do this better. It's still a very different thing to then actually go into it and take yourself seriously, I guess, in that new career, and also to get other people to take you seriously. And as you said, that six-figure salary is pretty hard to let go of. And I think, there's always that discussion. Do you continue with sort of the side hustle alongside, or do you quit? In which case you have the pressure to earn the salary, but then you've completely let go of that. You have the time. It's always the sort of juggle between time and money, I guess. But it sounds like you did the sensible thing of doing the part-time alongside as long as you could. But then there's a point at which you have to go, no, I know this is what I want to do. In order to go, as you said, into this as a full-time endeavor, I really do need to have the full-time for that. So that's a great way, as you said, to manage the risk and then to go all in when you're ready.
Right. And I wouldn't say I was necessarily ready, but I knew that I had to just jump in and do it if I was going to do it. So,
well, that's interesting then, because I guess we but I mean, we have to act before we're ready. So in terms of not being ready, because that's an important point, because we tend to have to do it before we're ready. There's never that point where we're 100% comfortable with it. So at that tipping point, you knew that you'd have to go all in order to make it work, but was there part of you that thought, maybe I should stick with what I'm doing? What was the decision process there to actually go all in and focus on the real estate business?
I think it was maybe a combination of things. Like you just said, I don't think you're ever really 100% ready. And if you wait until you think or feel you're ready, you're never going to do it. Mm-hmm. So it's just taking a leap of faith and trusting yourself and going kind of with your gut and your instincts and saying, okay, I'm going to do it. And that's, I gave it a few months, but I just really knew, like you said before, there's a trade-off. You trade time and money, I think. But eventually, if you're passionate and you work hard enough, I believe the money will come. Mm-hmm. But you have to put the time in first.
Okay, so you obviously worked hard and you went with your gut, which I think is so powerful. I think traditionally we tend to be, our education system and culture is very much sort of rational and brain and pros and cons, but that gut instinct is so important, isn't it? But apart from your own inner belief and strength and so on, where else did you get support in order both to overcome the sort of mindset piece and potentially also learn more about the new business and get started there?
So I would say my husband. I was fortunate that he had a stable job with medical benefits and health insurance. So that was important, because, you know, as realtors, we don't get benefits and especially medical benefits. So having that support, and he was also very supportive emotionally and saying, if this is what you want to do, then I think you should do it. So he gave me a lot of that support, as well as I decided to hire a real estate coach. And that was quite an investment. Every month it was a large amount of money, but I always say it was one of the best decisions I ever made. Sometimes you have to look at it, I feel, not as exactly the money you're putting out, but the ROI, the return on your investment. And, what I got back from hiring the real estate coach was just priceless, in the sense that it gave me the skills I needed, as well as the confidence and the mindset, which I think is really, truly the most important thing when you're starting a new business or a new career. It's all about the mindset.
That's so interesting and so powerful, and good for you that you realise that, because, we often come up against objections that people say, oh no, but given that I'm leaving my job, I need to now save money and I can't invest in anything. But obviously we're sort of missing the opportunity, as you said there, and the difference between investing and just buying stuff, but really investing in the support that you need in order to then be able to generate income, because saving is all well and good, but at some point that well is going to run dry, and we need to actually get the business to that level too. So to recognise that importance of finding someone, and in your particular industry as well, to get the real estate coach sounds like an incredible choice, and clearly, as you said, well worth the investment.
Yeah, and it was a gamble. And I mean, I racked up credit cards for a year or two, until I was able to pay them off. But, you have to make that investment in yourself. If you're not going to invest in yourself, no one else is going to invest in you. Mm-hmm. So that's important.
And I guess, so that was your husband and the real estate coach. What about, and we talked about, you doing this for 14 years. Has anything changed? Have there been new challenges and new support that you've needed, more recently?
Oh, has anything changed? Yes. So, real estate from when I started to today is very different, in the sense that with social media, I guess, is the biggest thing now. It's aside from real estate, you really need to be a marketer or have someone that's doing that for you. When I started, we didn't have Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn. And so there wasn't that part of the digital media. And now that's become another job. So yes, that has definitely changed since I've started into the business. And as well as I recently left a brokerage that I was there for 9 years and joined not a new brokerage, but a new brokerage in my area. So, and I've opened a branch office. So, that has come along with new challenges that I'm trying to say to myself, okay, you did this before 14 years ago, you can do and do it again, and take what you learned then into this new challenge and chapter of my life.
That's so interesting, because we do that thing of getting out of our comfort zone. You did took an incredible risk, and you navigated that transition into a new career. And then, as you say, it's very easy to get comfortable with doing what we're doing, but then the world changes and technology changes, the industry, and you make different choices, and you want to move to the next level. So it's a case of continuing to push those boundaries and getting uncomfortable again to make sure you're staying on top of the industry. And as you said, your personal brand and marketing, that's so important. And it's interesting to hear you say that in the real estate business as well, not just in sort of the more typical, maybe you think sort of coaches and consultants and so on. So that's something I always think is worth investing in as well, your personal brand, whatever your business. So that's interesting to hear you, of course, having followed that evolution from the more in person, I guess, networking and so on from before, and different approach to now the world of Facebook and LinkedIn and videos and so on.
Yes. And it's, I find it funny. I feel as I get older, it's harder and harder for me to step outside of my comfort zone. When I was younger, it was just so much easier. Like, I look back at things I did, high school, college and beyond, and I said, oh my gosh, how did I do that? I don't think I could do it today. I don't know why it is, but I feel as we grow and get older, for some reason, we have to push ourselves more than we used to step out of our comfort zone.
It's so true, and it's almost the opposite of what it should be, because imagine how little experience and skills we have at that age, and yet somehow we're incredibly confident. I always think coming out of college, I always thought, oh, I can get any job, and I'm the best thing that would ever happen to, and I wasn't super confident, but all of us came out with these CVs with no experience going, well, of course these companies want to hire me, and yet somehow now that we have 10, 20, 30 years of experience, we're feeling a bit more, oh no, I don't know, this is what I'm good at, and it's an interesting conundrum, but I think, well worth being aware of that, and as you say, trying to push ourselves. Obviously it's up to us then how much we want to get it. We don't have to take massive risks and keep chopping and changing completely, but hopefully we'll be in this business again for more than a few months here. We're still investing in as the long term, and we do have to stay on top of all these new technologies and make sure that we're still relevant. So I think that will require quite a bit of keeping ourselves on our toes and challenging ourselves.
Right. And I think anytime you get too comfortable, or you don't have that, I guess, sense of fear in you, then you stop growing and you stop becoming what you can become and who you can become. So I think that being aware of that is important.
Yeah, and we can become stagnant even at a high level, right? We can have an incredibly successful, flourishing business, but if you keep it at that level over a number of years, actually, again, that's going to become then sort of almost like the corporate cage that we had before, and we're not then growing and pushing and so on. So, yeah, that's a really interesting point. Love that you raised that. So what is the best part then, now that you've got away from this business that you weren't particularly passionate about, your own boss, and it's evolved over the 14 years, what do you love about what you do today?
Well, I mean, it's night and day. Like even 14 years later, I wake up and I'm excited about my job and my career. And there's no limit. There's no ceiling in this industry. So it's up to me. And I guess that can be a good or bad thing, because I don't have someone saying, okay, you got to do this. You got to do that. You have to be disciplined. And there are many days I don't want to wake up at 5 or 6 and work out and go to the office, and it's not like I have a boss that's telling me, okay, you've got to do this. So I love that part, and yet it's a challenge. And I love the creative part of it. And I love that I have made so many amazing friends through this business, people who start out as clients, but then as we, go through the transaction and the real estate process, they really become friends of mine. And just being able to meet these people that if I wasn't in this industry, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to meet. I think those are some of the best things about this business.
Mm-hmm. And again, it's such a different business to mine, but I have to agree it's the best part of, being able to talk to you today and hearing your story is incredible. And that was something I'd never be able to, and never even known you existed 5, 6 years ago, So I think that's really powerful. And I love sort of just coming back full circle to what you said at the beginning in terms of you noticing that this personal, emotional connection was missing. And now you've clearly been able to create that because you're, as you say, developing real relationships, friendships with these people that you're working with, which is fantastic.
Yes. And I feel that a lot of people, consumers, they look at realtors as used car salesmen, and they don't get or see the value that we can provide when it's done correctly. So to me, that's important. I want to be able to give my clients and future clients the value that they need and educate and guide them, and not just make it about, let's get the sale done and move on to the next. So to me, that's very, very rewarding.
And that's the right approach in terms of customer service, customer experience. And I hope and wish that other people in the industry will wake up to that as well. I know the market's very different here in England, but as you say, it's really not the most sort of admired industry, I guess. I mean, we're constantly complaining about how they're dealing. And from our experience of buying this house, last year, it was exactly that we felt that they were sort of lying to us and just trying to get the sale. So, I'm really pleased to hear this coming from you, and hopefully, it's something that will, infiltrate in a way the rest of the industry as well.
Yeah, and I think it has to. If we're not going to provide value, we're not going to be needed. So,
Yeah, absolutely. With the disruption of industries now, I mean, we become again obsolete, irrelevant if and other people like you will come in and, and sweep and take their business. So and then as you said as well, the two sides of the freedom, right? We have to be incredibly self motivated, which we are. As you said, 14 years later, you're still passionate and excited, but it is still a challenge when you're lying in bed in the morning. So getting up. In fact, I meant to exercise this morning. I completely forgot. I got in the shower. I was like, oh no, I forgot to exercise. So not that our
Well,
bosses used to tell us to exercise.
So because I knew I had this interview.
Oh,
So
good. Okay, there you go.
yeah, it helped get me up and get to the gym before.
Yes. And that's true. I mean, obviously, I discovered that, with the number of years of experience, that actually having some structure, it sounds great with freedom and doing whatever you want and going with your energy and so on, but actually having more of, ironically, sort of the Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 almost is actually really helpful to then facilitate your freedom and to make sure you're not working all the time. Just because you love your work doesn't mean you want to be doing it day and night.
Right. Right. And that's a challenge too, because in this industry, you can work day and night.
Yes. Oh, I can imagine. Yes. And it's very much, weekends as well. I guess it's not just sort of the really strict office hours, which is again a good and bad thing.
Right. Yes.
And, I guess both looking back at your decision 14 years ago and then what you know now, what advice might you give to someone who, like you, has ended up accidentally in a business, in an industry, in a role that they're not passionate about? What would you say to your former self, I guess, or someone out there who's watching now?
I think it goes back to, if they can start and try it part-time or on the side, then I would say do that so that you aren't giving up something that, because sometimes the grass is always greener on the other side, right? We always look at what someone else is doing or has and think, oh, I wish that was my job. But you don't really know what's entailed in a job until you try it. Or, I think a lot of people think being an entrepreneur is the greatest thing, but there's so much that goes into it. So I think if you're able to do it on the side or part-time in the beginning, just so that you fully understand and are committed to what it entails, that would be a piece of advice I would give them. And also going back again to when I said I hired a coach. Whether it's hiring a coach or taking courses or seminars or trainings, you have to really invest in yourself so that if you decide to move forward with this new career change, you have, again, the mindset, the skills, the confidence that you need to make it work. I think those would be probably my two biggest pieces of advice.
And so powerful. And as you say, and you keep repeating, mindset, confidence, it sounds, probably my former corporate self would think like, oh, mindset, it's all sounding a bit wishy-washy. But as you say, that is what makes the difference, because all the information, the knowledge is available, to be honest, in most of these areas, right? We can find it for free somewhere on the internet, but actually it's the step by step, it's the mentor, it's the role model, it's the working on that mindset, whether it's your money or whatever it might be, and putting yourself out there, your personal brand is so critical. So that's a really powerful message, I think, which is hard for us to hear. We think we should be able to do everything ourselves, don't we? We think it's sort of a weakness to ask for help, but actually, everybody, whether it's a top level executive coach or an incredible world-class athlete, has a whole host of different coaches in different areas. So it makes 100% sense that when we're starting a new area, totally new challenge, working for ourselves and a new industry, it's pretty arrogant of ourselves, I guess, to assume that we actually know what we're doing at that stage. So I think that's really important for us to be a bit humble and ask for that help when we need it.
Right. And I think too, just really trusting yourself and your instincts, and something that even, like I said, when I decided to switch brokerages and open a branch office, sometimes you just got to, like, I heard this advice years ago and didn't understand it until years later. But one of the best pieces of advice I ever got was, you just got to put your blinders on and do it. And meaning, like, don't allow others to influence you. If you really know and believe in your heart that this is right for you, there's going to be so many people that tell you that you can't do it. You shouldn't do it. Oh, what are you, crazy? You're going to risk this. How could you? You're selfish. Like, if you really believe it in your heart and gut and soul, just put your blinders on and move forward, and don't allow others to hold you back. I think that's very important, and probably my biggest piece of advice now that I'm thinking about it.
I think that's so important, and it's gold dust really, because I mean the challenge I guess is when we're starting we don't yet have that conviction and clarity, right? So when we tentatively begin to explore something, if people then, and I've certainly had this, are a bit negative around us, it's easy then to withdraw and think, oh, maybe it's not such a good idea. So if you can sort of protect yourself a little bit, as you say, put the blinders on, incubate your idea, explore, find out if it is a good idea, because these other people, you know, they're projecting their own fears, they know nothing about that new industry potentially, and you may know something they don't. So find the answer, but as you say, find that yourself, trust your gut, and then turn off a bit of that noise, and stop following or looking at sort of whatever's happening in the Facebook newsfeed, and unsubscribe from emails, and just kind of stay in your lane and do your thing. And that's such an important message.
Yes, and don't allow others to, you know, make you second guess yourself. Think you can't do it, because like you just said, there's so much noise out there. You just start to go crazy.
Yeah, and I think, you know, there's a time when we do need to learn and listen, especially at the beginning. It's important to explore and see what other people have to say and do the research and so on. But there is a point at which we have to make a decision. This is what I'm doing. Go with it, and then seeing the results rather than just, as you say, second guessing ourselves and going in circles. So I think that's a great note to end on. So Melissa, thank you so much, so powerful, and I love hearing such sort of common themes in you know, a different era almost, you know, 14 years ago, and in a different part of the world, but it's still very much the same desire to make a bigger impact, to, you know, to make a difference, and to have that freedom in your lifestyle and so on. So if we want to find out more about you, I guess you can't do a lot for us over here in the UK in terms of properties and so on, but you know, if somebody watching is in the market and more local to you, where can they find out more about you?
MelissaDeSantis.com is my website. And on Facebook, which is really the biggest platform that I use, is Melissa DeSantis Real Estate.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for your time, and best of luck with the next 14 years.
Oh, thank you, Anna. Thank you so much.
Thank you.